Good evening, everybody. We thought we'd be saying good afternoon, but it is late evening. Welcome to the WVU postgame show, part of our Mountaineer locker room then and now, and the voice of college football, of course, with the network. We appreciate everybody tuning in here. We're trying this. It's kind of a new thing. Do a little postgame recap of the WVU football games. Joining us tonight, of course, my friend and colleague, co-host Frank Fear. Also, Mike Dunlap. We got him coming down from the southern part of the state. And, of course, right above me is Joey Foster, part of the voice of college football WVU with his own shows. Joey's going to chime in here and talk a little bit about the game today first and foremost, and then he's got to jump off and go to another show, and then we'll take it from there. We encourage everyone to send their messages in, comments, questions, whatever you'd like to do. We're here to try to answer those for you. Joey, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you. Let you run with it.
Yeah, let me tell you what. First and foremost, I think most of us predicted Penn State to win this game. I did. I predicted, but here's what I predicted, 27-24. I thought the final score would be about 27-24. I thought West Virginia played better. Here's what I think went wrong with that. I think that sorry, I'm getting some feedback here. Okay, I think what went wrong there is it looked like we were holding Garrett Green back from being Garrett Green. So I was in Sorgy Stories at halftime. Sorgy Stories invited me over there at halftime to come over, and I see him out there in the chat. Appreciate you being here, Sorgy Stories. I went over to Sorgy Stories at halftime, and we were talking about this, and I said, we're holding Garrett Green back from being Garrett Green. We're trying to make him a drop back passer that's a scrambler, which is like Major Harris was. Major Harris was a drop back passer and a scrambler. He was a great scrambler, but he could throw that ball down the field. Last year with Garrett Green, we tried to make him Pat White, to where he scrambled a lot and done a lot of just reading down the field to throw the ball. This game, it looked like we were just like more Major Harris than Pat White, and Garrett Green. I think is somewhere in the middle. You got to let Garrett Green be Garrett Green. That's what I felt like. It's like he's not Geno Smith. He can't drop back there in a pocket and throw a ball, and he's also not Pat White or Major Harris's scrambling ability of Pat White, especially. So you let Garrett Green be Garrett Green. I felt like the coaches kind of held him back a little bit in this game. And second off, man, we need some work still in the secondary. I mean, we need some work in that secondary. There's holes all over the place out there. There were passes that were missed and were open. I see. There was one pass that went for quite a few yards. They had three guys open down the field they could have thrown it to. So that's got to be shored up. So, anyway, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. I appreciate you letting me come on and say that. And but all right, so I appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you later.
Okay, Joey. Talk to you later. I'm gonna piggyback a little bit on that, Frank and Mike. I kind of agree with Joey there on Garrett Green. I think. You got to let him run the ball some, and he didn't have any yards the first half. He finally broke one there and got a first down. But typically we see that quarterback draw a lot, during the games, and we didn't see that much of that. However, I would say this about that. Sometimes the defense dictates what you do, and sometimes you can't do the things you want to do. And I really felt like looking at Penn State's defense and how quick they were so much quicker than we were. And I think it kind of took that out of the playbook because, he could drop the throw and then try to run the draw. They were going to catch it before it got out of the pocket. And I just think they were way too quick. I thought their defensive line dominated our offensive line. When he dropped the pass, they were in his face. When he had an opportunity to throw, he missed. He played a poor game. He didn't throw the ball very well, and I'm sure he'll say the same thing. But that pressure was on him extremely quickly, and I just felt like they dominated our offensive line, and we didn't really have any answers for it.
Mm-hmm. Mike, your thoughts?
Mike, your mic's on mute. And we didn't do that on purpose.
No.
Maybe better that way, huh?
Yeah, we didn't do it on purpose.
You know, when I tried to watch the game, and I didn't worry about any numbers, anything like that. I just tried to watch it as sort of maybe a player. And this is what my thoughts are. I agree with what you guys are saying. I thought West Virginia came out into the game and they were pressing. They had the keys to the Corvette. This big, powerful offense. They wanted to show it off. And it didn't work. May work for the next 10 or 11 games, but this game it didn't start. They fumbled, recovered a fumble, and 2 plays in a row. You got to make that work for you. They didn't do that. And let me say this. Frank and I talked about this. We're doing a post-game show. I know none of us want people to think we're being critical of players or coaches.
Right.
We're just discussing the game. And that's important to me. But you hear people talk about, the lean. Have you ever heard anybody talk about that?
No, yeah.
And West Virginia had no lean today. They come off the ball. There was not that guy that was sticking his hand up in the other guy's face. They just my opinion. And then once they got behind, well, of course, big plays killed them. Big plays absolutely killed them. I heard the guy talking about it afterwards. I don't know how many long plays there were, but there was a bunch. And guys running free. Yeah. So they've got to go in and say, okay, is that a personnel problem or is that a scheme problem? Is Penn State that much better than us? And granted, after today, you have to say Penn State is a good team. I was one of those guys that predicted West Virginia in an upset. And after the first part, when they fumbled and got the football back, and I thought, well, I may be onto something here, but they I didn't think they were consistent in their running game. Where was CJ? I'm giving him the ball 20 times a game, 15 times a game. Didn't seem like he was there. Do you know how many carries he had? Anybody? I mean,
I don't. I know he got quite a few there. Yeah,
but he didn't seem to be a presence, which he was in his first, obviously his first 2 years before he got hurt. Garrett Green, I thought pressed a little bit. I agree with Joey. He's not quite Pat White. He's not quite Major Harris, somewhere between. He has to be his own guy. But we've talked about this before. What were his instructions, right? What were his reads? We don't know that. So do they need to loosen that up and say, look, third step, plan it, throw it, or you're gone? Are they waiting for the deep cross? We don't know that. But I'm sure that he done the game plan to the best of his ability, to what Neil Brown had talked to me about. But I just thought they come out and they were pressing. Penn State looked relaxed, I thought. Hey, let's do this. Put your hand in the ground, snap the ball. Here I come. And so that's sort of my insights on that. I didn't think West Virginia had much enthusiasm, even at the start, that they needed to have. They needed to have that game at night. Is what they should have done. I'm pretty sure I know why they didn't, but you know how much exciting that is. But that's my feelings. Just my opinion.
Well, I agree with everything that everyone said. Isn't that diplomatic?
There you go.
But I look at it, you guys know me, and I always look at the numbers. Last night I was watching Michigan State play Florida Atlantic, and I said to myself, boy, this game looks a lot like the game against Louisiana Tech when they came to town, and it was the beginning of the end of John L. Smith as coach because Tech walked away with a win. Last night, Michigan State should have lost to Florida Atlantic. I saw that game today, and from the get-go, I said to myself, is this 2023? And are we in University Park? This is the 2023 game all over again. The guy that was playing quarterback for West Virginia is the same guy who played quarterback back in 2023 September. The guy who plays quarterback for West Virginia didn't look like that the rest of the season. Garrett Green didn't look like what he looked like against Penn State. Garrett Green today didn't look like Garrett Green in the bowl game against North Carolina. To answer your question, Donaldson touched the ball 12 times for 42 yards. Longest was 10 yards for a 3.5. 3.5. Garrett Green was 15 for 28 for 161 yards, a 5.8 average. You remember this, obviously, Greg. It was just Wednesday. We had keys to the game, and at the bottom I said, here are the stats. Drew Aller last year, a guy who threw 58% completions last year, was 76% against West Virginia. And what did he have today? Drew Aller was 11 for 17. What's that percentage? About the same, for 216 yards and 3 TDs. And then they put in Pribula, and he scores a touchdown with them too. The defensive line gave up too many yards. Those Singleton and so on. You know, they've got great running backs. It just said, okay, this is Penn State again. The question is, and I'll stop with this, or the conclusion I came to last year was when everybody was down on the Mountaineers, or most people were, I said to myself, hey, I think this team is not going to be what most people think. I think they're going to be okay. I hate to say this. Now I'm saying to myself, is the reverse going to be true this year? I hope not. And I don't want, like Mike said, don't want negative feelings. And I think also, of those of us who are Mountaineer fans, I've already seen it on social media where people are saying, same old WVU, fire Brown, Green is overrated. And I think we got to put some boundaries, give this team a chance. Obviously, the next big game isn't Pitt. The next big game is Albany, because in their league, the football championship series, they went all the way to the semis last year. And next week's game is going to be the biggest game in that school's history. They lost to South Dakota State. South Dakota State won the championship last year in the football championship series. And so, I don't know. It just was a repeat of what I saw last year.
Yeah, and I think the feeling, I think the difference is last year we went into the game at Penn State thinking we had no chance. We just let's just hang in there. And we actually played them pretty well. This year, I think we came in, a lot of people thinking we could win the game, and we laid an egg. And I think that's probably a lot of the negative feelings that people have right now about this team. And this team, I think, will still be okay. I think they're going to be fine. I just think, and Frank, I said this to you before we got on the air, there is good, and then there's elite. And we played elite today, and we're just good.
Sure.
I really think you can see the difference in the scale of the athlete. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but they're just better. I mean, they're better at every position. And I thought, again, I said one of the keys to the game, I don't know if it's the offensive or defensive line. I thought the offensive line was key so we could have a run game. I thought our offensive line got overwhelmed. They couldn't handle the front four of Penn State. When we were on defense, I thought their offensive line overwhelmed our defensive line. I just thought they were so much bigger, stronger, quicker, and we just couldn't do anything with them. And you talk about Eller having a great game, which he did. He's a pretty solid quarterback, but when he dropped to throw the ball, he had time, and you got and like Joey said too, the defensive backs, it looked like they were having some breakdowns back there as well. People getting wide open, but he had so much time to throw the ball.
He had some.
Yeah, and we didn't get close to him. I don't think we sacked him the whole game.
And the thing about that, Greg, that I'd say is that The question could be answered, and I think that we know the answer. We're not going to play a slower quarterback, a lumbering slow quarterback the rest of the year. And not only did he have time to throw, but he had lanes open.
Yep.
When he wanted to run. So
yep, sure did. Yeah, and I just you look at the difference when Green went back to throw and when Eller went back to throw. Green was running for his life or just had to hurry up and chuck it. Again, just because I think of the pressure from the defensive line and then our breakdowns on offensive line. And then I thought, our defensive line, they held up decent against the run. But again, we gave no pressure. I mean, we didn't even, like I said, I don't think we sacked him. I don't think we even pressured him once. I don't believe it. He was very comfortable back there with the football. And you can't win like that. I mean, you've got to put pressure on that quarterback and make him move around and chase after him and get him on the run, throwing the ball and that sort of thing. We just didn't do that.
Yeah. What do you guys think about Kelly's question?
I'll go first on that. Do you think if we had used a combo of quarterbacks, it would have helped? Wouldn't have hurt, but I don't know that would have helped too much because I don't think that Green was really the problem. I mean, I don't think he had a good game. I think he threw the ball rather poorly. But I don't know that having somebody else back there would make that big of a difference because of the pressure that was coming from the line. That's my opinion. Mike, you go ahead.
Well, the old saying is the most popular guy in town is the backup quarterback, right? Again, I don't think it would have mattered. When you take this whole thing in context, and I'm going to make some people mad, but not these guys that play PlayStation and have automatic substitutions and all that stuff and just hit plays. When you look at this football game, and you see that they lost all those quality offensive linemen last year. Zach Frazier starting for the Steelers at center. So they lost a very cohesive group. Anybody in football will tell you that the key is the offensive line.
That's right.
It doesn't matter if you got 2 guys on the outside. A quarterback can throw it 80 yards. If he can't drop back there to plant his foot and throw it, I might as well be back there. And so I think that's a miss. And again, I'm not criticizing them. It was a big game. There was a lot of hoopla. I'm sure they came in feeling a little chippy. And maybe now they'll settle down, go to work. I think this team has good, solid senior leadership. And at some point, if this continues to not improve, I look for a players-only meeting. Happens all the time. Air grievances, get things straight, and get back to work. Let's hope we don't come to that, but it really is a very effective tool for teams and players.
Yeah, we're getting a little feedback. I don't know where it's coming from, but what do you think about Ryan's? This is an issue we were talking about before we went on air. What do you guys think about Ryan's comment?
I agree 100%. I thought, they're superior athletes, talented, far faster than us. I think you could see that pretty well across the board. They were just bigger. I mean, I saw one shot on TV, field level shot when they were showing Penn State getting ready to come up to the offensive line, run their play, and our defense line up against them. It looked like men playing against little boys. I mean, the size difference was very noticeable. And, Frank, that's one thing I've noticed the last couple of years with us. I go to a game or two every year. And I remember we were playing Baylor. We beat Baylor that night. But I remember playing them and just looking at their defensive backs were the size of our linebackers. And we were just so small compared to them. And then I look at at this game, and I see the same thing. You just see a lot of size difference, speed difference. They're just, and there's a comment that they lost 3 starters on offensive line to the NFL, and I think they replaced them with 3 guys that may be in the NFL next year.
That's what they do.
Yep.
But again, if we think about this in terms of comparisons, when you think about after WVU was 4-3, the Mountaineers were 4-3, and then went on that run to finish the season. The only game we lost was a game that I think we could say the same thing about, and that was Oklahoma. we were just the comparison between Oklahoma and WVU was such that it was just the gap is noticeable. Now, step back and you think about what resources the institutions have, and so on, and the quality of, I don't want to say the quality of players, but the 4 and 5 stars, et cetera, et cetera. And so that raises a question that came up earlier from Jim. I'll put it up here. What do you guys think about this?
Yeah, I think West Virginia's will be all right. Their experience will show up when they get in conference play, and the good thing is I think the quality of teams will be slightly lower. And again, that's a lot of times things that fans of the Big 12 don't want to admit, but I just feel like that is a high quality team we played. We were outmatched. We were outmanned. We were out talented, out physicaled and out quicked. And I think as we get to the Big 12, I think we'll, our experience and leadership will take over and we'll be just fine in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
Frank, can I mention something, Frank?
Sure.
I'm sorry to butt in, but you were talking about their guys were faster than our guys, et cetera, and this is going to be boring, but yet it's going to be intriguing to a guy like you, Frank. Let's think about the physics of this, okay? Physics don't lie. So, yeah, we've got some fast guys, but if our guys are 4.3 and their guys are 4.2, that's enough to allow him to get his hand on the ball, right? Game of inches, all the way around. If and I don't have the numbers in front of me to verify, but I'm sure they're right. If you're come off the ball a split second different, and the defensive lineman's acceleration is so much better, you're beat. And again, I know this is boring, but it's kind of I went to an engineering school, so it's kind of the way I think. but specifically, the speed. Now, you think I'm getting off track here, but you think about the physics of a guy throwing a football and hitting a guy in stride 40 yards down the field. It's incredible.
That's right.
But again, you got a wideout that's a 4. Let's say a 4.2 guy, and you got a defensive back that's a 4.4 guy. If you would do the math, you would see those 2 tenths would give him that catch.
Yeah. No, I agree. Here's another comment. Just a second, Joey. I want to get this up here because, again, this is something that we know has already come up. And also, let me just put a footnote. When we were doing the show on Wednesday, one of the issues that came up, and actually brought it up a month ago, is that they had to replace two coordinators, and it eventually became 3. The offensive, defensive, and special teams coach. And people were saying, well, maybe that's going to make a difference. They didn't miss a beat with Tom Allen as defensive coordinator, and that offensive coordinator from KU, Kostelinki, is just he's terrific. So,
when you review film, when you watch film, we're watching a Penn State. All we have is last year's film, and it's a revamped offense, revamped defense. So very hard to scheme for that, to plan for that, because you don't really know what's coming from these guys. You have to go to their previous schools if they were coordinators there and watch what they did in those spots and try to adjust your defense to those things. But I thought the fact that they had these new coordinators was going to make it more difficult on WVU because it's going to be harder to plan for them. I don't know if we got out coached. I don't know how that happens, but I coached for 30 years and I know there were coaches out there a lot smarter than me, but I won a lot of games. So I don't know, maybe I out coached them. I don't think I did, but maybe that's what happened. But I don't think it mattered who the coach is.
I was going to say, Frank, yeah, I don't think we got completely out coached, but I think there were some coaching moments in that game, such as down in the first quarter when we could have kicked the field goal. It was 4th and 1, and I don't blame them for going for it. He's facing Penn State, but at the same time, You're facing Penn State. You're facing one of the best defenses in the country. You know, why not take the points? Because the likelihood of being back down there to get more points is slim. I mean, it's going to be tough. So while you're down there, why not take the 3 points? I felt like that was a pivotal moment in the game. That was early in the first quarter, and we could have put some points on the board. So I think
I agree
three
too.
and out.
There was one other
Three and outs for deadly.
I want to get your thoughts on this. Sorry to interrupt you, but the 2-point conversion try after we scored our touchdown was that. I don't know that I understood it. I've been trying to tabulate those points in my head, but if we kick the extra point, we're down 14. If we get to 2, we're down 13.
Well, Penn State has tried it,
right?
So I think I was just thinking.
I still like why we did made the score 27-12. And if we kick extra point, we're down 14. I don't understand. I'm not sure what the thinking was.
I know because they but you got to remember, I don't understand it either. You're right, but the point spread it didn't make a lot of sense. But at the same time, I think it was just thinking of, okay, they tried it one time. Let's try it one time. Let's see if maybe it was just to see how our 2-point conversion would work for later on in the year or something, because at that point, what did it matter, right? Maybe it was just something as simple as that. I think the game was lost early when we had so many 3 and outs in that first half, and even in the third quarter, there were so many 3 and outs, and you can't have that many 3 and outs and win a football game of any kind, much less against a team like Penn State. And when you're down there, you've got to take those points. I feel like you've got to take those points when you're facing one of the top defenses in the country. I don't care how good your rushing attack is. We had already seen on tush push. Remember the tush push?
Oh, yeah.
They pushed us backwards. Guys. We lost charge on that. and so we had already seen on that they were bigger, physical, stronger, but stronger than we are. Why not take the points? So that's how I felt about that. So.
And Joey, you mentioned about showing the 2-point conversion. A lot of people don't think about this, but anything they show causes the rest of the teams to have to prepare for that and take up practice time, take up the 2-point conversion time. So that's one thing they do for a fact.
Well, if I'm West Virginia's opponents, I just look to see what Penn State did because it didn't work very well. I do what they did.
Let me ask y'all this question. I don't remember when it was. I think it was either late first quarter, early second quarter. It was like 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, and we throw a bubble screen with 6 Penn State guys out there, and we got like 2 blockers. Do you remember that? I mean, it was like we threw like a bubble screen out there, and I'm sitting there thinking it was 3rd and 9, I believe. I'm never sure thinking it's 3rd and 9. What are we doing throwing a bubble screen behind the line of scrimmage with 2 blockers, and one of them's already got beat. One of the blockers already got beat. So I mean, it just made no sense to me. Why not chuck it down the center to a tight end? Why not throw a real wheel route? Hey, run Jaheim White out of the backfield on a wheel route. He's pretty damn quick. He's also short. Ain't nobody gonna see him coming around that edge and getting out there on a wheel route. Why not do that? Did y'all see that today? I mean, that's just things that I seen that I felt like we should have tried and done.
Frank, I'm gonna go off here just a minute, try to get my sound fixed, then I'll come back on.
Okay, Greg, thanks.
And Joey, one thing too, I think is just because your offensive playbook is 300 pages thick does not mean you have to use 300 pages. Exactly. Find something that works. Bobby Bowden, I heard him say one time when they were in their heyday, they ran 6 plays, but out of different formations. Yeah. And they run them great. Everybody knows that, Florida State of the late 80s and early 90s. So, again, I think, and I don't know, but I get the feeling that sometimes these guys think they have the keys to the Corvette when they can get on a farm tractor and get the plowing done.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Yeah.
come up with that.
That's fantastic.
Hey, you know,
Good.
hey Frank, we were talking the other night. You know, when we were talking about our keys to the game. I remember saying that I thought our passing game we needed to, because of the pressure we're going to be getting, we need to make those short passes, those in routes, cut in, slant passes, that sort of thing, short routes, and all that. In order to be effective, and that might help open up our running game a little bit. But I thought, like Joey said, we threw a bunch of passes early behind the line of scrimmage. And when you're playing a quick team, a team that's quicker than you are, it's hard to have much success with those type of plays. And we threw a bunch of behind the line passes, and I felt like we needed to hit some shorter routes and try that to open things up a little bit. And we never did do that.
Yeah.
I don't remember a pass too many across the
Yeah.
middle.
Let me bring this up
And
because,
I'm not.
yeah. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm not in any way blaming any coaches or saying that coaching
No.
was bad. What I'm saying is, I don't think they took advantage of some situations that they could have taken advantage of,
Yeah.
Right.
and that's all it was.
What Zim 1963 is saying, Zim, this is an issue we were talking about before we went live. When you think about the hype during the offseason and the build up to this game, and ESPN being in town yesterday, etc. We were talking about that too much PR, too much branding can get you in trouble because it's an image of what the institution or organization wants you to believe about the institution or organization. And the thing is, the perception of it, especially before the fact, often doesn't align with the reality of what it is. And so I told Greg this before we came on. I got nervous in the off season with all the hype videos and all the everything going on. And I said I wasn't going to talk about it, and I am, because it bothers me. Because in the end, sports is just about the only activity that we see as a public where you can there's a score at the end, you can see it with your own eyes, and no matter what anybody says, the reality is right in front of you. I mean, you can see the play, you can see the score, you can raise questions, because so much of what happens behind the scenes. So thank you, Zem 1963, for bringing that up.
Is that Frank? Is that a caller calling in, or is that somebody's phone going off?
That I think is
Wait a
Mike.
minute.
That's Mike's phone, isn't it?
Yeah, Mike, you're muted again, and we didn't do it this time either.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
think that was that your phone?
Yeah, you guys know I have to keep my phone on all the time because of what I've been through and
your situation.
Medically. So
Yeah.
I actually tried to turn it down, but I forgot all about it. So I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
That's all right. Frank, back to what you were saying. Again, we talked about this before we came on the air. I said I think that it's been a while for WVU. It's been a while for us to have had that feeling like we used to have when we had Steve Slayton, Pat White, Owen Smith, those guys. Everybody here wants that back so bad, and I think any little bit of positivity gets blown up into we're going to be great. And I think the good feeling coming off of last year, combined with some pretty good players were brought in, and we had a lot of good returners. And again, I still think we're going to be fine. I still think we're going to win a bunch of games in the Big 12. I think we're going to contend for the Big 12 championship. I just think today that we played a team that was much, much better than us all around. And I would guess that they're much, much better than anybody in the Big 12 if they had to play them. That's my thoughts. I don't know if people would agree with that, but I just think they're a good football team, a very solid football team, and we just played a team that was better than we are. And I think we're going to be fine.
What I would say to everybody, all the people out there talking about how bad West Virginia is right now and how all the hype was about West Virginia being back or whatever it might have been. Well, all I can say is look what Georgia did to Clemson today. It was 34-3. There's nobody going to be talking like that about Clemson tomorrow. Just think about that. Clemson is probably going to be in the top 25 still tomorrow. and Georgia just beat the mortal snot out of them 34-3. We put on a show and at least stayed in the game a little bit, for a while, a lot longer than Clemson stayed in that game with Georgia today. So, they're not going to give us any credit for anything, no matter what.
Yeah.
And the people out there, the blue bloods and the cream of the crops of the Clemsons and the Notre Dames, all those, they're always going to get the special treatment. So just remember that.
Let me say something about this, and also it relates to what Russell has up here, and also what Andy is saying up here. I'll put Russell up again so you can all see it. Let the hype got to him, and this is good. Humble them, and we'll see a better team. And then a Penn State fan, thank you for this, Andy. A Penn State fan here. You bounced back last year, and will probably be fine. The thing about it is that, and I'm different from the three of you. I'm not a native West Virginian. I came to West Virginia. My wife, Kathy, came from West Virginia. I love West Virginia. I love WVU. And I'll tell you what, I don't give a shit what people say about West Virginia. And I'm emotionally attached to West Virginia. And I think the fact of the matter is that we're not in the same category as Clemson. Clemson won a national championship, and they were competitive for years. My own opinion is, I think Clemson's in deeper doo-doo than WVU by 10 times because they're measured by, we won it, we were there year after year, and look at us now. I mean, they're looking, is their future Nebraska?
Oh.
Is their future
that's
Notre
what I'm
Dame?
thinking.
And Frank,
I think we're in better shape.
The financial aspect of it is, I don't know what the numbers are, but West Virginia puts in $20 million. A school like Clemson puts in $100 million.
Oh yeah,
and wins 3 games, or what? I'm just speculating, but you see what I'm saying. So that
there was a lot of talk today on the pregame shows when they talked about Clemson and Dabo Swinney and how he has refused to use the portal and get involved with that. And most of the commentators on there thought that he was going to be in trouble if he didn't change his ways, because it's the name of the game now. I mean, you've got to use that to fill holes, and he's refused to do that so far. And I think you're seeing the impact of that the last couple of years. And most of the commentators today felt the very same way. And I'm with you. I think they're a lot more trouble than WVU because of where they've been and what's expected of it. I think we all want WV to be good. I don't know if we expect him to win a national championship every year. I don't. I just like to have one before I go. But it's a different expectation. It's a different game.
Yep. And I like what Jackson's saying here, because Florida's in the same boat. These are teams that were there. They had it and they've lost it, and they're trying to. And Miami is in the same place. And there's another one here too. And I agree. I know you guys probably do too with Russell. I think we got to look at this. But as I said earlier, I'm a little bit worried about next week's game because they've got some players not at our level, but they've got almost a 3,000 yard passer at quarterback, almost 4,000 in a fellow by the name of Puffenberger. They've got over 1,000 yard receiver in a guy named Easton. So we can't just look at Pitt. And Jim is saying, I think.
Now let me say something. Is Russell referring to my comment about Clemson being bad and getting beat 34-3? And when he's saying that, I hope we have a chance to play again in the postseason.
No,
I was saying that earlier. Because I was saying that earlier on the podcast. I said, look, it wouldn't surprise me none. Clemson got beat pretty bad by Georgia.
Yeah,
we've got beat pretty bad by Penn State. Clemson and West Virginia could both be pretty good teams and end up in the Pop-Tarts Bowl together.
That's right.
So
here's another one.
That'd be one I'd want to go to, Frank, the Pop-Tart
Bowl. Just before game and halftime. Yeah. What do you guys think about run to read comments here? Because one of the hype is, and I think it was based on a lot of fact, is the offensive line looks really good, but we knew those tackles were going to be really challenged by the by Carter and the other defensive end. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know.
Can I touch on that
I-
real quick? I'm sorry, guys. Can I touch on that, Frank? This is what people got. Go to a stadium sometime, and I know we've all been there, and listen to the offensive line calling signals. Okay, you'll be amazed. Now you got new guys or younger guys in front of 60,000 people, and let me tell you something, boys. You don't think it's hard to block a defensive end in major college football? Try it sometime. Try it.
Yeah,
300-pound man trying to break your neck.
yeah, that's right.
And people forget about that. It's not, a feel-good game at that point. So that was just what I wanted to add about the offensive line. I get upset when people say, well, you couldn't block it. You know what, buddy? I was doing all I could do. Hang on. As simple as that. So people need to think about that.
What do you think, Greg?
Also,
I mean, I thought again that defensive line was mighty, mighty good, and they were bigger, faster, and stronger than us. And people can say what they want to say, but when it comes down to it, if that guy across from you is better than you, he's going to beat you. And that's what happened today. I think they were just so much better than us across the line, not just the front line, but the secondary as well. They were just better than us. And I watched Milam quite a bit just to see how he was doing. He seemed to be holding his own pretty well with that. I can't remember the defensive lineman. He's supposed to be something else. I forgot his name now, but he didn't do a bad job against him. But I'm not so sure that the switching in and out was really not an effort to try to keep people fresh because of the heat and that sort of thing. They may have just been doing that, and you got to develop that too deep for the season, and it doesn't hurt to get some people in there if you're not going to lose that much. I don't know about the Williams guy. I don't know what kind of player he is or anything like that, but I suspect it was more of a keep him fresh kind of thing. I don't know that for sure, but that would be my guess.
Do you have a thought on that, Joey?
I want to say Russell. Well, I do, but my thought is with Russell. If you don't care, my thoughts with Russell. I don't know about Green. Green didn't look like himself today, and he didn't. Green did not look like himself today. I don't know if going to the Manning camp this year might have hurt him a little bit because he got some confidence as a passer, and now he's dropping back and he's just looking down the field and not realizing, hey, I can scramble to the right, I can scramble to the left, I can shoot up the middle. He's surveying the field and throwing a pass, and he's a great passer, don't get me wrong. But that's not Garrett Green. He's got to just learn to look at the field, scan it, nobody's open, look and see where I can run, see where I can scramble, and find somebody open or take off running myself. Garrett Green just seemed like he was tight tonight. Today. He was really tight. He just seemed like it wasn't the same Garrett Green. So,
Except for the Penn State game last year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Last year, he just seemed like he was a little bit more scrambler, a little bit looser. But this year he was trying to pass the ball a lot, and I don't know if that was coaching to keep him in the pocket. If it was, stop it. And if it wasn't coaching, then Garrett, stop it. Just be yourself. You'll be fine. But you're awesome, man. That's all I got to say.
Greg, what do you think about? I'm not okay. It's not okay golf.
Yeah, he mentioned about if he refused to go after one of those fumbles. I don't remember that. I remember when he got hit by the big lineman and fumbled the ball. The big lineman picked it up and was running it, and he kind of shot away from making the tackle. But I get that. He didn't want any part of that, which I understand. I don't remember him not going after a fumble, but I would just say that he did not he just didn't look himself, like Joey said. And I think, again, I'm going to go back to the same thing I've been saying since we started, and that is that I think Penn State had a lot to do with that. They were putting a lot of pressure on him. The receivers were covered. He had some balls dropped. He threw some terrible passes. I mean, a little mix of everything there. I just don't think he looked very comfortable the whole game, and I don't think he played like he normally plays because, like Joey said, he is a little bit looser than that normally. He'll tuck it and run real quick before before he try to throw it into a tight pocket. He's done that before, and it looked like today he was more content with going ahead and throwing the ball trying to make something big happen. I don't know if he was forcing that or if that's what, like Joey said, he's being coached to do that or what. But he did look a little bit off today. His passes weren't like they normally are. And again, he did have a few drops, but he threw some poor balls today, and he didn't scramble out of the pocket very well. So, but I don't know about the fumble. I don't know if he did that or not. I'm not sure.
And as Andy's saying, there was a lot of speed on defense. Here's one that Mike King, along the lines there, the interview he had before the game, I think he's referring to Garrett Green, said he knew that his parents would still love him after the game. That to me sounds like someone that's lost some confidence. And he was whipped before he even started? Interesting.
Okay, that sounds like drama. That sounds like drama to me, and I don't even want to comment on drama. I don't give a crap about drama. That's me. Y'all go ahead.
Drama's in the dictionary, ain't it, Joey?
That's right.
Well, again, Mike's referring to an interview I didn't see or hear, but whatever it was, it'd be interesting.
I didn't see the interview, so it just sounds like maybe somebody trolling or drama. I don't imagine somebody said that.
Yeah, I agree with Jim. This probably is going to be one of the best, if not the best, defense and quickest defensives we play all year, and he's probably correct. And like I said, I just think that when you play a team that's that much better, you're going to lose, and that's what happened to us. I don't blame any of our players. I don't blame our coaches. I just think they were better. I think there's things we could have done better, and I think Garrett Green is going to have to loosen up a little bit and run that football some. He's going to have to do that. And but I think we're going to be okay. I just think that we've got good players, and we're going to be fine in the Big 12. There's another comment from Russell. Oklahoma State lost to Alabama last year. They ended up playing for the Big 12 championship. So I think losing to Penn State will be a lesson learned, and I hope we get better from this. Yeah, and I was going to say prior to that, we were talking about the hype and everything before the game. These guys are kids still, young men, not kids. They're young men. They all have social media. They all read social media, and they pay attention to what people are saying. They all watch ESPN, and they all watch all these shows. And, it looks like they bought into the hype. And I heard a couple of comments here that said this might humble them a little bit, and they may be better off in the end for it.
Hey, I do want to give a little shout out. I got to give a little shout out. I said one of the keys to this game was that they needed to shore up that special teams. Hey, special teams didn't do too awfully bad today. I was okay with it. Now, it could have been better, but I was okay with it. Most time they were starting on the 22, 23-yard line. That's a lot better than the 45-yard line. So,
right.
And I might be loud. I might be loud because I am so used, and I got to step back. I'm so used to having my other mic. My mic went out, remember? And this mic picks up everything, and I'm right on top of it. So I apologize. I could probably sit back here, and you guys can hear me fine. I don't know why I'm right on top of it. So
yeah, you sound fine. Sound fine to me.
Yeah, well, guys, I'll tell you, we're getting close to an hour. Anyone want to come into the studio and join us? I've dropped the link. I can do it again. If you would like to come in, and you don't necessarily have to show your face. We can make sure your audio only is on. If that's something that you want, we'll go about another 10 minutes here, and then we'll do whatever we're going to do after that. I'll leave it to your imagination.
Now, one thing we do say, one thing I will say is, no, you don't have
it
to
is
show your face,
disappointing, though. I mean, when you think about what we were hoping for when we woke up this morning, and the excitement that was building up, especially with yesterday and all the $1 million gift, et cetera, it was just great. And the other thing that surprised me a bit, the crowd, and again, this may be the Fox. May have been different if ESPN was doing the show. The crowd didn't seem to be as boisterous as I thought they would be. they seemed to be a little bit. Well, it was more. It was less rambunctious than I thought in terms of noise level. That may be simply my ears. Did any of you notice that?
I think you know what it was. Remember, Pat McAfee was in town yesterday. Anybody catch Pat McAfee's show? It was an amazing
Oh, yeah.
show. I mean, fantastic show. There must have been 75,000 people at the Pat McAfee show. So they've been partying since yesterday. So I think that had a lot to do with this. And then, it didn't help that Penn State jumped out to an early lead. It didn't help that we kept going 3 downs and out. It didn't help that we tried to do a tush push and couldn't even get a half a yard. That things like that matter. And then you got a rain delay at halftime, and there's so the crowd just wasn't there. The atmosphere wasn't Morgantown today. That's for sure. The atmosphere was not Morgantown today.
Yeah. By the way,
the fact that it was a noon game and it was 95 degrees had something to do with it. But my son texted me. He was there, and he texted me after about 2 possessions both ways, and he said, "Dad, they're way too quick and big for us."
Yeah,
and that might have had something to do with it as well.
Joey, Mike has a response there, basically saying it was an interview the coaches and the players normally have, which we watch all the time.
I didn't see that. I didn't see that, Mike. And I wasn't inferring that you were trolling. I just that it seemed like drama. I can't imagine they said that, but I'd like to see the context of that. And so I would have to see the interviews. But that is interesting that was said. So
you're not talking about me. You're not talking about my interview, are you? You
no,
about somebody else.
We're talking about Garrett Green's interview.
No,
he said. Well, see, earlier he said that where was it? The interview he had before the game said that it. Am my mic working?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The interview he had before the game said he knew that his parents would still love him after the game, and that he sounds like someone that lost confidence, and he was whipped before he ever started. Now, at that time, we were talking about Garrett Green.
Yeah.
So, and then he comes back to say it was an interview with the coaches and players. So I haven't seen the interview. I'd love to see that interview, and I'd like to know the context of how he said that too. I mean, so are we reading that wrong, Mike King? Did he mean it?
Sure, it was a question that was posed to him.
Yep.
What's this mean to you? What's this game on? It's the biggest game in history, of opening game in history, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm sure it was just
pressure.
Well, no matter what happens, my mom and dad still gonna love me. That's all that matters. I'm good with
that.
Yeah.
But
right.
And I don't know. Garrett Green has never showed a lack of confidence that I've seen.
That's right.
Watched the McAfee show, and but it, maybe it was. I don't think it was. I think it's just the context of it.
Yeah.
Made it sound that way. But again, he'll come out of this just fine. He did last year. Had the same type of game last year. He'll be just fine with it, and I'm sure they're going to figure out a way to get him more involved, running the ball and that sort of thing, because they just didn't use that today.
Guys, I'm gonna get out of here. I've got to get to another show at 7. So
okay,
love you guys, and I'll see you later. All right.
See you, Joey.
Thanks, Joey.
You.
Yep, a lot of great comments today, and I was talking with a player unnamed earlier this week on a telephone conversation, and going back to what was said a few minutes ago about Garrett Green. We have to understand that there's the press, and what the press may be writing or not writing, what they're saying, how they're saying it. Then there's the fans, what they're saying, what they're not saying, and how they're saying it. There's a third group, and Mike and Greg, you can relate to this. There are the players who've played before, the players who are playing now, but especially what the elders are saying. And so, if you're in a point position like a quarterback or a star running back or a star receiver, star defensive linebacker, doesn't make any difference, a star in whatever sport, you got to take all that stuff's going on. And so we don't know how all of that's being interpreted. So the one point I would make is we can view things, but we're not living what the folks are living. What we do know is that Green didn't look like he looked for 3/4 of the season last year, if not more. And so we'll see in the future how this is going to be. But in a way, I think next week is an upgraded Duquesne game from last year. And Duquesne turned out to be pretty good.
Yep.
Albany's better.
Yep. And I think you're right. It is a big game to get us back on track, get that confidence built back up, and go into Pitt and beat them. So I think it's an important game too. And again, I think we're going to be fine. I just think we'll play a much better team today. And I don't know that we'll play anybody that's as good as that the rest of the season.
Well,
Yeah. Well, Penn State, and I'll put this up again from David. Again, we have to understand, and because we're not getting compensated, but with the nil, it changes the whole landscape. So that if a player is playing as an amateur, room and board and tuition, it's one thing. But now we've got a situation where they're actually getting compensated. In some cases, 5 figures, 6 figures, and so the expectations of performance are like a pro player. So I think that's really important. And the point that Andy's making here is good here. I can promise you all Penn State took us seriously. And Penn State's next step was talked about on the program today, and we all know it. When you look at those numbers, they beat everybody except the teams they need to beat to be able to take the next step. And this has been going on for a long time. So this was not a game that Penn State could come in and just simply say, we got to go through the motions so we can get on to the next game, not only West Virginia, but where it was played. So that's a good team. So I think you're right, Mike. They may be, as someone said earlier, they may end up being the best team in the Big Ten. We haven't seen Michigan yet. Yeah. Ohio State had a hell of a time with Akron today.
Really?
Yep. And Michigan, you look at what Michigan lost. 17 or 18 starters. They lost their head coach. There was a lot of controversy surrounding the program. So you wonder how Michigan is going to be. Ohio State, it's hard to say. But yeah, Penn State could very well. I don't see why they couldn't win the Big Ten.
A lot of variables.
Yep. Yeah, there is, and I really think that West Virginia again they were a little outmatched, and I think that played into the game plan and everything. I think when you talk about Green not being himself and scrambling, well, I'm not so sure he had that much of a chance to scramble. I mean, he just didn't have much time at all to do anything. And that defense was quick, and they
big.
And big, and that can eliminate a lot of that scrambling. If you got defensive linemen that can run as fast as your running backs, then you could, that can stop a lot of that scrambling. I just thought Green didn't play well. I didn't think he threw the ball well, but I don't totally blame him for that. I think there are a lot of other things that caused that. The receivers were well covered. The pressure from a defensive line was intense, and we were behind the chains a lot, trying to work out of holes, and so I don't blame him totally. I just think he played poorly in different areas, but there was a lot of different components to that.
Yeah, Penn State looked like an NFL team. They certainly did, and I agree with Andy. Plus our OC, that we knew he was good. I'll tell you what. I never expected Tom Allen to be as good as I think he's going to be as a DC, but he had that defense. They had a great defensive coordinator last year. He went back to Miami, and so any rate. And then Joey has a final point here. Yeah. Yeah. What if donors quit giving? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, yeah, it's hard for people to if they're not getting
Yeah.
results to keep pumping
Yeah.
money into it. Yeah, it could
Well,
happen.
well, Andy, you had more confidence in your DC than I did. I
Yeah.
mean, I think Tom did a great job at IU. Very difficult place to win. You may not know this, but I was at Michigan State for years, and I thought he did a great job, but couldn't win the big one for the most part, and let a couple of games just they slipped through IU's fingers. Here's another one. Good question. What do you guys think, Mike? What do you think about that?
Well, Frank, if I could read the question, I'd tell you.
Okay. My question is, should West Virginia cancel the future Alabama and Tennessee games at the beginning of the year and just play below average teams like the rest of the Big 12? Well, that's what West Virginia's been doing for the most part. We put a graphic up the other day on our show on Wednesday, Greg's show and mine, and that is that very few times do schools like West Virginia open against major competition. We looked at all the openers this century, 25 years, and there are only about 4 Power 5 teams, Power 4 teams that we've opened up against. And so it may well be. But again, you have to weigh that, going back to nil and donors, the money that comes from playing marquee games.
Right.
So-
And the recruits you pull in.
That's
If you're
right.
a recruit, you look at the schedule and you say, hey, we're going to open up with Alabama or Michigan or whoever. That means something to a player, and I think it also means something to the fan base.
Mhm.
Even if you lose the game, you've had 6 months of excitement and buildup. Not saying you want to lose, or it's a good thing, but you know what I mean.
Sure.
We've had, just like the Penn State game, the fans had all this time to crow and to discuss, and how many times have we discussed it? And it was a big event. All right, it happened. So I personally say keep the marquee games. I used to hate when West Virginia opened up with the MAC schools, 55-3, 60-2. I know it's a win. I hated it. So that's just my opinion. Yeah.
Well, thank you there. Andy is throwing us compliments. We appreciate it. This is what, this last point here, Greg, we've seen this on social media and it's been brought up. The words trash wouldn't necessarily be used, but I've seen in print losing seasons. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't know that we build ourselves up doing that. I think, you play who's on your schedule. You have no way of knowing if they're going to be any good or not before the season starts. So you can just go by last year, go by tradition. You don't always know. And, that was some of the same criticism we got when we were, in the Big East, that, we just didn't play anybody and wasn't anybody in the Big East any good, and that sort of thing. And which I think goes ahead and leads you, to the question about your marquee games. If you get an Alabama, Tennessee coming to Morgantown, I think that's awesome. And I think, a win like that could, just like today, had West Virginia won this game today, that could have propelled them into a big time season.
No question.
And so you got to keep that in mind too. And again, people with, that are donating money and that sort of thing, and recruits, they want to see us play good teams. I think we all want to see us play good teams. I think sometimes you can overdo that a little bit. And I think Neil Brown's been dealt kind of a rough hand with his openers that he's had to deal with. But I'm like Mike. I say you keep those games.
Yeah. You mentioned something there, Greg. You're talking about schools and donors getting in this habit where, as you lose, they decline their donations, and when they bring it back. I don't like that at all.
Right.
I'm sure nobody does, but to me, that's saying, you had a bad game. We're not going to feed you this week. You got to eat toast all week.
Right.
I just don't agree with that at all. Bring back amateur college football.
Yeah.
I know it's a pipe dream, but
yeah. Well, it's good to see Timothy Green back in the house. Hope you're feeling better, Timothy. What do you think about this, Greg?
Yeah, it says this is the worst showing at well, again, I think much like last year. I think last year we came out of the game feeling a little bit better about the team. This year we feel worse about the team after the game. It was basically the same game, but I think again the expectations last year were not near what they were this year, and I think that's why people were feeling so distraught after this game. Is that we had high expectations this year. I think we still should have high expectations. I think we're still in line to have a good season, and you're going to lose games. That's going to happen, and you're going to lose a lot of games when you play teams that are better than you are. That's going to happen. But I don't think we can toss the whole season down the toilet just because we lost this one game. We're going to be fine.
Yeah, very good. What I think this point makes sense too. The landscape keeps on changing.
Yeah, that's right.
And so it's you, as they were saying today in the pregame show, you can lose 2 games. As long as you win your conference, you might have one of the 12, and then it's probably going to get larger than 12. So, and so we're being told by Joey that Mark has a instant analysis. You can look that up at that URL. Mark is the founder of the Voice of College Football and does a great job. And he's a master at analyzing and does an excellent job. So you can click that. Any final comments, guys? We've gone for about an hour and 10 minutes.
No, I hated the weather delay. That just throws everything off. But I think they'll be all right. You got to remember, you got guys in that locker room with a lot of pride, Frank. Guys that have won a lot of football games in their career, high school, college, whatever. Neil Brown's no slouch. I'm sticking with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Great.
I think. Just out there's the fan base hanging there with them. I think we'll be fine. Just like last year, they're going to bounce back and have a good season. We just got to hang in there with them. And even though they're getting paid, they're still very young people, and a lot of stuff happens. So keep that in mind as well. Frank, I don't know. You want to mention our show Wednesday night before we get off the air? We'll make sure we mention that.
Sure. In fact, I might be able to even to put up. Let me see if I can find it here. I think we still have the announcement here. Yes, there we are. On Wednesday, we always, for those of you who are new to what we're doing, this is the first time we've done a post-game show, but Greg and I, along with Mickey Plumley and Mike is an associate producer, every Wednesday night, we have a program at 7:00, and it's called Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now. And we always try to bring back a former Mountaineer. I shouldn't say that. They're still Mountaineers, but Mountaineers who played back in the day. And we had Pat Randolph, who scored the winning touchdown in the '84 game, with us on Wednesday. And we're going to have a player out of the '70s, Tom Zakowski, who still is in the top 5 of solo tackles all time for WVU. And then the following week, we're going to have a guy named, you may have heard this name before, McKenzie, the Pit Week, the guy that kicked probably one of the famous, certainly top 3, 4, 5 plays in WVU history when he hit that field goal to beat Pitt in 1975. So thanks for saying that, Greg. We hope to find you here on the network every Wednesday throughout the year at 7:00.
Yep, and we'll be bringing you this post-game show after every game, regardless of how big the game is, win or lose. We'll be here for that. So, Mike, appreciate you dropping in and joining us. Joey, wherever you're at, appreciate you. Timothy, thank you again. And Frank, as always, great job manning the controls. Thank you. And we look forward to seeing everybody on Wednesday night. Good night, everybody.
Good night.